Tonight's topic is discussing the use of tasers by the San Francisco Police Department Crisis Intervention Team. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from some community advocates and mental health experts on the issue of the use of tasers. We also have here 3 commissioners from the San Francisco Police Commission who've agreed to be here tonight to listen in and take notes of tonight's forum. Supervisor Jane Kim, who is the supervisor for District 6, is also on her way. She is presently closing up a committee hearing, but she will be here with us tonight. I wanted to remind folks that, you know, the topic of tasers and specifically our intervention approach for those experiencing a mental health crisis, it's a hot topic.
This summer, the San Francisco Police Department, specifically the Chief, Sir, introduced a proposal to arm the crisis intervention team of the police department with electronic control weapons, commonly referred to as tasers. And what the crisis intervention team is a team that is, it's not quite all the way there in terms of what the resolution was passed, but what it will be hopefully at some point is a team of people that responds to folks who are in psychiatric crises and uses verbal de-escalation skills as opposed to weapons to address the situation. And so that's what crisis intervention team is, and there's a lot of components to it. So specifically the proposal is for the, once the officers are trained, is that group of officers would be armed with the electronic control weapons. Where the proposal is right now is the Chief of Police proposed it. This is something that falls under the Police Commission. So the Police Commission is the authority on this subject. They will be taking a vote, and when they take a vote, it does not need to go to the Board of Supervisors. It actually, the authority lies within the Police Commission. And what they did is they've been having a whole bunch of they've had 3 different community forums to hear from communities on tasers. They had one out in the Sunset, they had one in the Western Addition, and one in the Bayview. And those public forums got input from community members. They are right now at this point compiling information, and they're going to be putting out a report. The subcommittee, which was 2 of the members of the subcommittee, Commissioner Loftus and Commissioner Turman, are members of that committee. The other one is Commissioner Chan. And she would come tonight also, but you can only have 3 commissioners here at a time. You can't have more than that because of the Brown Act, and so that's why she's not here. But those 3 committee members are going to be compiling a report and then reporting back to the whole commission, who will be taking a vote. The vote has not been scheduled. Correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioners Turman and Loftus. The vote has not yet been scheduled, but we think it's going to be scheduled in about a month or so. We're going to start off with David Lewis, who is a secretary for the Mental Health Board. And he also is involved with the Mental Health Association of San Francisco and the National Alliance of the Mentally Ill. And recently the Mental Health Board went through a process, taking a position on a lot of these issues, and so I'm going to turn it over to him.
I wanted to give you a little background on the issue of tasers and CIT. CIT stands for Crisis Intervention Training, which is something actually originally designed by the Mental Health Board for about 10 years before Chief George Gascon at the time stopped it. He didn't believe in it. It was slowly after Gascon left and new chiefs came, and I think Godown followed him. Crisis intervention training was restored, but not with any money from the police department. It's been entirely volunteer. I'm one of the CIT trainers. There's a bunch of us. It's a 40-hour, 5-day program. And a few hundred officers have been trained in it. Here's the thing with crisis intervention training. It's a work in progress, and the police commission should know this, because the dispatchers still don't know in their computerized dispatching system who is trained and who isn't. So if they get a call, the police get a call for somebody who's experiencing a mental health crisis that needs a CIT officer. If that dispatcher happens to be lucky enough to know, remember, a particular officer who's trained, they can send them out. But the system doesn't let them know that. And if this dispatcher is new or doesn't know, they have no way of assigning. the officer. So while great in theory, crisis intervention training is more of a future promise than a kind of a current reality. Having said that, there's still a couple hundred officers who've been trained. And what the police department proposes, or namely our chief, is that we arm these officers with tasers. Now, my board, the city's mental health board, has taken a stand against it. And why is that? It's not because necessarily our board is against tasers in their entirety. In fact, most of the board members, I'd say, they range from conservative to progressive to not so progressive. But they're against tasers for police, and this is why. Tasers, in a sense, represent a threat to the consumer, represent a threat to the person suffering a mental health crisis. And the entire point of crisis intervention training is to de-escalate, to use verbal techniques to de-escalate, whether it's talking somebody off a ledge, whether it's talking somebody out of their weapon, whether it's talking somebody into treatment. It's to use a verbal de-escalation. And the presence of additional weapons sort of undermines the whole process, especially tasers, which are not just a device for controlling someone, but they're also really a pain and administration device. A taser can be used to inflict pain to force compliance, and that's why the very sight of a taser can be threatening. To someone under crisis. It's a bad idea for de-escalation. You de-escalate with words, not with threats. So again, from a mental health perspective, it's the worst possible thing. And with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Laura Guzman.
They escalate people who are compliant and living with them peacefully. They do that sometimes in the police car. I have sometimes to call, and I work mostly with Mission Police Station, so I have to, claim that I work mostly with the district. I have to call the captain oftentimes to let them know I was not happy with that 5150. So we still need so much training to do to police officers to assist in crisis, let alone talking about tasers. Okay? And I want to say, I heard, is it $1 million we're talking about? Is that correct? $1 million, that's what I heard from the whole trainers? Okay, so we're talking about $1 million. Folks, I'm sure this audience can tell the commission and the city what we can do with $1 million. Am I right? We don't need $1 million in tasers. We need $1 million to, again, if any of that money goes to really train police officers to do this intervention, also we can put this money to train our community. This is where the power lies.
I just want to clarify, there actually has not been an official cost number coming out from the police department about what tasers would cost yet. But there has been a lot of work in the community trying to figure that out. So my third speaker is from the Youth Commission, and her name is Mia Shackelford, and she is the chair of the Youth Commission, who also went through a process of taking a position on this particular issue. And so let's give it up for Mia.
To represent the youth of San Francisco, specifically the city charter, like the city's constitution, they want us to identify the unmet needs of youth in San Francisco and also kind of advise the city on what we think from the youth perspective, not just the adult perspective. And on February 19th, we adopted a resolution. I have a copy of it here, and if you want to get a copy, you can talk to us after the meeting. Specifically saying that we urge the police department not to acquire tasers. And the reason we've taken this position is because we believe that SFPD really needs to focus on having positive community relationships with youth, right? Specifically, when youth are so young, right? We're still developing the relationships we're going to have towards law and towards police the rest of our lives. And if we see that police have these instruments as a pain and kind of a threat towards us, it could lead to these youth who experience tasers or who even just know that police have tasers, having negative perceptions towards the police and negative relationships towards the police for the rest of their lives. So essentially, the Youth Commission believes in community policing. We believe in the police and the community working together to both provide a role model for the youth and to protect the youth, but also for the rest of the community. I think it works for everyone. And as other speakers have mentioned so far, we think that before the police investigate using tasers, they should focus on fully implementing the crisis intervention model, because we've seen and we've heard that it hasn't been fully implemented. People haven't been fully trained, and it should be the absolute last resort. After we've seen that these more community-based models haven't worked, and I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll see that the community-based responses will work better and will foster better relationships between the entire community and SFPD.
And to all of you who have participated to the forum, that 99% of San Francisco is saying no to tasers. Kill, not kill. De-escalation, not punishment. Not death. Thank you.
Tenderloin community are people who use drugs. And so it's expected that a lot of people who are going to be tased are people who overdid it a little bit on stimulants like speed or crack or coke or something like that, which is a type of mental health crisis, right? It's a situation where people are going to be very paranoid and maybe unwilling or unable to comply with police demands. And these people, if you overdid it on stimulants, your central nervous system is already overloaded. And what tasers do, tasers act by overloading a central nervous system. So I'm wondering what kind of research has been done to ensure the safety of people who are high on stimulants and make sure that they're not going to die or be damaged for the rest of their lives by being tased.
So if you guys recall, SFPD is using an incident in which last year in which a female officer shot and killed some employee at a chocolate factory who got into an altercation with a fellow colleague of his. But they failed to mention what happened in the case of Oscar Grant and Johannes Meserly, in which the officer thought he was using his taser but accidentally used his gun. Personally, my concern is that this accident can happen here in San Francisco and perhaps to one of our youth in the Bayview Hunters Point, in which I was appointed to represent, or those in the Mission District, or those in the Tenderloin, or those even in the Fillmore District. This is why I personally care about this issue, because I don't want the same thing to happen here in San Francisco.
SED kids, and as they get older, as kids are known to do, they become adults and they would become part of the mental health population. Many of these kids, as children, just the way that they are born, they have physical problems as well as mental problems. And so I'm really concerned about how a taser might affect them physically.
Police officers, the only difference is they've had the 40-hour training, and you can recognize them because they wear a little gold pin. It'll be somewhere on their left or right breast that says CIT in gold letters. It's a small little pin, and it's the only way you can tell they've been trained. But just because... No. And the reality is who responds to a crisis could be either one of them, unlikely, or more likely one who hasn't been trained.
The electronic control devices that the police use, however, I believe are much higher caliber.
De-escalation. I used de-escalation and I had no training like we have kids from Lawrence. I'm one of the members of the whole training internship right now, and I'm loving it because it's proved that if you go to a person who's in a crisis situation and you use common sense and you talk to them with patience and you work with them, you can save your life.
99% of the city of San Francisco being conscious and aware that these things are going to kill, and like the brother said, they're going to make a mistake and pull out their gun when they thought it was their taser, and we'll have more and more Oscar Grants. There isn't a question of whether tasers should be here. As a personal opinion, as a person who was on the street with my mom for years, who was arrested by police over and over again, who several times pulled out
different weapons, who put hands on hips, holding batons, and who constantly made me and my mom fear for our lives. I would never arm a cop with yet another weapon. And again, I really want to be clear that we're talking about follow the money. I know everyone in this audience is very clear about the fact that we're even talking about this because across the country there's a multi-billion-dollar push to get more weapons in the hands of these agents that protect the rich and the powerful in the U.S., United States of America.
Yeah.
I have no connection to tasers. I have no interest in supporting their corporate efforts.
Department, and so we don't have those figures in, but it would still be expensive.
But you have to learn to distinguish.
Right, and it would not just be the tasers, it would be the calibrators first. We'd have to have calibrating machines, we'd have to have people to train them, and then we would, if it goes through, it's recommended to have defibrillators in every patrol car in case something does happen, and it just goes on and on, so we really don't know what the number will end up at.
California was told that you have to let people out of prison because they don't have enough mental health facilities in the prison. So people are being put on the street, there's no program, and then they freak out and the cops come and stun them. I mean, that's insanity. That's not crisis prevention, that's crisis creation.
And we know guns kill, okay, just as well as tasers can, because who knows what it is that's in them that someone might be healthy, might be allergic to. They could be a perfectly healthy individual, get tased, and instantly die.
Just to honor a friend of mine who was killed by the police a couple years ago, Mikey wasn't here, Mikey Roll. He had substance abuse issues, mental health issues. He was not doing very good. And the police in LA gunned him down. The point I'm saying is that if you give police officers more weapons, more ability to create harm, they will. They do that. They react aggressively all the time. And I'm opposed to tasers because, I'm a social worker and I've worked with police who have been trained in mental health and police who kind of had an understanding, and also have dealt with police who didn't. And the police that didn't were very, very quick to use force and aggression. And as we know, the police, even though they're trained here in some mental health, they're still very often very quick to use aggression and violence. And what they need is we need more community programs, and we need more safety net programs, and we need more mental health services. We don't need any more armaments.
The great work that my colleagues Misha and Jeremy have been doing to get feedback from the mental health community and from the medical community that seem from our standings are unanimously against tasers, and the board of the mental health board passed the resolution against it. So I think we need to get our facts from people who have training in this area and really keep
The truth of the matter is 700 people in the United States have been killed because of tasers. The ACLU has done a study. Not all of them have been killed because of the electric shock. Some of them have been killed because when they've been shocked, they have fallen on the ground, they have knocked their heads, or they have, as a result of being shot, hurt themselves. One of the other studies that's been done in the mental health community is to show that a disproportionate number of the people who have been tasered are people with mental illnesses.
I'm sorry, my name is Jeremy Miller. I'm with the Eva Stelly Foundation. Many familiar faces around here, some new ones. I'm highly impressed by the community turnout for this event, as well as representatives of city. I wanted to just fill in a couple things that other people have said. You all in the commission have heard a lot from me already on this issue, so I won't repeat myself on those points. What I will say is a couple different things. I'm going to speak from the perspective of someone who does the work that we do. So not just taser statistics, but for someone who week in, week out works in police accountability, gets crisis calls. I want to let you know that just the clients that we've dealt with since this week began, we have multiple clients that have been beaten to the point of death by San Francisco police. One right now who's sitting at 850 Bryant with a broken neck, hanging onto his life by a thread. Another one who actually made it to the point of medical death and was resurrected, and we actually met with today, who would gratefully survive. Electroshock would have easily been enough to put them over the edge. Second point that I would like to make is that the Oscar Grant case, and it relates to the first point, the Oscar Grant case has been brought up. We don't want people to be accidentally shot as opposed to a taser. Well, I was sitting next to Oscar Grant's best friend and his uncle just yesterday. We were actually the first people to, this organization was the first organization to respond to that case. And you know what, the fact of the matter is, everybody from that family, from that huge community that grew out of that, is very clear. There was no mistake between a taser and a gun. That was police brutality, and the taser provided cover. And the connection between the two things that I just spoke on is that we have no evidence whatsoever that tasers will do anything to diminish the culture of police excess and police violence in San Francisco any more than it did in Oakland.
Aside the physical effects, putting aside the electroshocks, etc. By the way, my grandfather was bipolar, and in Argentina they were treating with electroshocks. He died within a week after an electroshock session, so it's definitely in my mind. But putting aside the specific physical and physiological, there's, for those of us with trauma stories, I don't want to be re-traumatized by police. Thank you. I'm having a crisis. So we need to really articulate to police that what we need when people are in crisis is, again, love, attention, help me regain control. I also want to echo what my brother Miller said here that is really important. At times I feel really ashamed to the conduct of San Francisco Police Department as someone that works in the community, in the trenches. I really feel ashamed about the way they treat our homeless folks. I feel ashamed how they treat our drug users. I feel ashamed how they treat our small dealers on the corner of 16th and Mission or Turk and Jones. We need to really change the dialogue with police folks. Otherwise, tasers is just the tip of the iceberg. So I just want to make sure that there's the trauma that is individual and the trauma that is the community in San Francisco. We shouldn't be, in terms of the police, we shouldn't be afraid of police officers, and we are.
I understand that the appeal of tasers for police is also, they think it's stressful to talk somebody down, and they can just click a button and end the situation, put the person down with a button click, and that's appealing to someone under stress. Yes, it's hard to talk someone down, but it's a rewarding experience to know that you could achieve kind of a peaceful, happy resolution by just talking.
We're not just saying we don't want it, we're telling the police commission how we feel about it as police officers. So you may hear, and in any organization there's always a few, so you may hear some talk about, officers and justice really are for tasers. No. But I'm telling you, they are not for tasers. We had a big discussion on it, there were a few that they thought. But the final analysis was officers and justice feels that the San Francisco Police Department really doesn't need tasers.
Who has a hammer, everything is going to look like a nail.
I can say this is the best crowd, and actually nights like this really humble me because I get to represent this community, and I'm so proud to represent this community. So thank you for tonight. And actually one of the gentlemen said this, and why does this issue come up over and over again? When we think that the dialogue has ended and we've decided not to pick up the issue of tasers, it comes back again the following year. But in some ways, having nights like this are something that are a testament to this community. And when there's an issue that we care about, just having the community come together to speak out on it in terms of how it impacts us, I think is a beautiful thing. So I just want to appreciate that. And I also want to appreciate that we have 3 of our police commissioners here. I think it's great to have you here. I've been clear since
since I ran for this office, I'm opposed to the acquisition of tasers by SFPD. Until I see actual reasons and data as to why we need them, and I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen how they've been helpful in either reducing violence or tension, or how they've been used as an alternate to guns, and I haven't seen that evidence yet. And I think that many of the stories that I hear tonight are additional evidence as to why I would support that in the future. I do think de-escalation is incredibly important, and something that I'm really excited that the Police Commission has pushed was, of course, the mental health training, which I think was really important. It's a first step, right? And I know the commissioners acknowledge that as well. It's not something that all officers are mandated to do currently, and I hope that we can work on that. Mental health is an issue that it doesn't just impact low-income communities. We see it in all of our communities. And as it continues to gain visibility, it's something that we're going to have to deal with at some point as a society. And I think even Connecticut was kind of the most visible example of that, of how mental health untreated can end. And so, hopefully we can continue to work with the Police Commission on that issue. It's clearly an issue that we already care about here in the Tenderloin, that we prioritize as something that we need to figure out how to manage, but also how to deal with compassion and love. Right, and that's something that I think is really important. The other thing I'll say, though, is that during my time here as supervisor, I have met really good police officers, and one of them is Captain Garrity, and I think we're really lucky to have him here in the Tenderloin. And
Supervisor Kim, I've been here 3 times already, or 2 times already. This is my 3rd time the tasers has come around, and that's a really good question: is why does it keep coming back? But your voice is really important, and your voice needs to be heard, and I'm just glad we're hearing it, and we can take it back to the commission. And what you said was really important, was we need to find some money so we can fund the CIT. So it's just not the volunteer program, and volunteer from the police and from the community, but maybe we can actually get it funded so we can keep it going and bring more officers in.
The way it used to be for 10 years. It was run out of the mental health board, and it was funding for it.
Okay, well that's an important thing to talk about. The budget's coming up.
The rest of it never got implemented.
Mental health parade.
So I just wanted to really thank all of you for coming tonight. Something that I certainly live every day. I also work in an organization in Bayview that is designed to improve the health of children and adolescents exposed to adverse childhood experience, which includes incarceration of a parent, mental illness of a parent, domestic violence in the home, community violence. So it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I just really appreciate when folks take time out of their day, come to a community meeting like this. It is our obligation to hear your voices, and I'm really grateful that you took the time tonight, so thank you.
Thank you, and I want to join Supervisor Kim as well as my fellow commissioners in saying your voices are very important to me too. I am chairing the subcommittee that's looking at this issue. It is the first time, because I've been on the commission less than 2 years, that I've had to deal with this issue.